Well, I think what would be interesting is to hear from all of you, perhaps. Doesn't have to be a question, could also be a comment. I think at this point it would be great to hear a few thoughts that may have come out from these discussions, particularly if you've got something to share that's perhaps addressing some of these points and perhaps advice on that.
Good evening. First of all, thank you very much for all of it. It was really, really interesting. One thing that I found particularly interesting also is in many of the conversations, most of us, I believe, travel quite a bit. And we're trying to figure out to balance how much do we need to travel, how much do we need to be somewhere in person. And then I think we should also look at life cycle analysis really, because apparently social media also is using quite a bit of energy. I heard this morning something that a WhatsApp message could be like a short haul flight, which I hope is not true. But I'm just thinking maybe Stefan could look into this and could do something interesting where we actually compare, you were talking about lighting or travel or, plane or doing something virtual, or I think it might be interesting to look into this, and I'm sure many of us would be interested in finding out that information to help us make choices.
And I can say that Julie's Bicycle actually has free tools for exactly this. So if you are with an exhibition, a tour, a museum, a music festival, any event, then I think exactly that, understanding kind of those quantifiable impacts and knowing which part of it to solve. I know, all of us are familiar with the plastic straws, paper straws, cups, and a lot of effort, and it's good, and to think about that. But if you have quantified it and work with people that can help you to do that, then you can make sure that you're making a decision, and that's what I was saying, is to make the case, and that everybody's got time poor, resource stretched, and you want to allocate that resources really effectively. So there are some simple tools to help you gather that, and we work with a number of organizations that are really like Stefan, trying to unpack, what does an exhibition take, what does a theatre production take. There's theatres and that I'm looking at that, what does it look like to be a net carbon zero project, and they have, and there's quite a few of them, but what does that, what does that model look like? And it would be really interesting to collaborate on that.
I just want to say one, is it working? Yeah. One little thing to Stefan, yes, to all your questions. It can all be done, without doubt. And it has been done. And I just wanted to say that. It's not a problem. What are you talking about? How? There are lights, you don't have to bring your lights. You can send virtual representations. You can have a group discussion. Technologically, it can be solved. I think already people have been doing, Namjoon Paik years ago had a, country to country, when this first could even happen, it happened with Namjoon, who began, was one of the first video artists. So yes, technologically, I'm not going to go into it now, but yes, it can be done. And also, you don't have to bring your whole troupe. You could have your troupe communicating in different ways. I'd say that part of it is solvable really easily.
I don't speak very well English, sorry, but I would like to tell that young people and young generation are concerned by this problem. And my daughter has created an ecological Swiss society for clothes, and I would like, it's 1 hour, 1 year ago only, it's a very young society. And I would like to ask to you, what do you think of this initiative? Thank you.
I think it's amazing that your daughter has created a sustainable clothing line. When I was in Ohio, I've met with these scientists who are actually studying what is in fishes' bodies. And the thing that they found the most of was actually pieces of polyester from our clothing. So like all of our yoga pants and stuff, we're like killing the fish with our polyester clothes. So like a hemp-based sustainable clothing line is like really exciting. So thank your daughter.
There's a piece of work that the British Fashion Council brought out called Fashion and Environment, which was a piece that I led and the team at Julie's Bicycle. And I think what I see in fashion is it's so exciting because there's lots of great little projects coming and like your daughter setting them up. And I think there's coming a frustration because they're coming out, they want change and they're coming into the companies and the companies aren't ready yet for it. They've got kind of, as Dorothea has described for the museum sector, quite structured things. And so I think it's how do we support young people who are going to bring about the solutions so that they come in and they're not just suppressed. You don't want to turn up to work and feel like none of your ideas are listened to. And so I think it's thinking about, probably at a personal level, how can you support the brands to show the bigger companies that you're putting your dollars, euros towards those efforts, and to then see the shift, and then you're creating the spaces for the young people. But it's about scale. But very excitingly, fashion is one of the sectors, along with food, that cuts so nicely across all the sustainable development goals. So it has loads of ways that through thinking about sustainable fashion, you're thinking about tackling so many other inequalities in our society.
We're coming close to an end, so I wanted to push you a little bit further out of the comfort zone. Youth are posing often the right question. I remember our eldest son a few years back, close to ending high school, he came and said, "Father, how comes that the more I use of a resource, the cheaper the unit gets?" That's simply probably the question. Look at an airline. If you buy 10 more planes and you buy more kerosene, your kerosene per unit will get cheaper. You open a spa, your cubic meter of water will drop by any unit you use. Our systems are wrong. So if we really want to fix the issues of a sustainable future on the planet, looking at resources, hungriness, thirstiness, we need to change profoundly. And that's really what I believe. We need to change value systems, and we need to do things differently. It's not enough to do, even the fashion, it has still the same not sustainable logic. And I think the youth probably can help us to tell us that we should change, and we should be able to change and transform ourselves. If we don't manage, we're just perpetuating the problem, and we're not fixing it. I'm sorry for that. Let's end with a sign of hope. My wife and me, when we constructed our little house in the Bernese Oberland, we did write in German a poem, an old one. And I think it summarizes maybe also a philosophy of life, because it's about values. I'll translate it. If you want to be happy in your life, you have to contribute to the happiness of others, because whatever you give away comes back to your own heart. So I think if we would live along these lines, probably the resource hungriness and thirstiness would be reduced automatically, because it's other values like relationships, time we spend together, etc., that count more. And we would value simple people's way of life, which are much more sustainable than our own. Thank you.